welcome back to another ASMR video. Today I will be discussing the murder case of Stephen Lawrence from 1993. I have chosen this topic because of the horrors that are going on in the world at the moment surrounding race, and I would like to show my support. I will never know what it's like because I'm white. I will never know what it's like to fear for my life because of the colour of my skin. And for that, I am incredibly privileged, and I recognise that. I wholeheartedly support the black community and all other minorities, and it is awful that this is going on. If you would like to show your support, do some research into how you can do so. I recently donated to Show Racism the Red Card, which is a UK charity that teaches anti-racism in schools, which is really important because some children have racist parents and don't have any other role models. And I think this could make a huge difference. But there are many charities that you can donate to. Just do your research and ensure that they're a trusted charity. I will now do my disclaimer. This is a ASMR video, but it is also me discussing a murder case and will be distressing in some ways. It mentions murder, racism, and violence. If you do not want to hear about these topics, please click off this video and choose a different ASMR video that is more suitable for you. So I will get right into the case of Stephen Lawrence. Stephen Lawrence was born in Greenwich on the 13th of September 1974 to Jamaican parents who had emigrated to the UK in the 1960s. His father was Neville, a carpenter, and his mother was Doreen, a special needs teacher. He was the eldest of 3 children, his siblings called Stuart and Georgina. During his teenage years, Lawrence excelled in running, competing for the local Cambridge Harriers Athletics Club, and appeared as an extra in Denzel Washington's film For Queen and Country. At the time of his death, he was studying technology and physics at Blackheath Bluecoat School and English Language and Literature at Woolwich College, and was hoping to become an architect. So Stephen Lawrence was a very accomplished and hard-working individual. I have listened to some videos before about Stephen, and he sounds like he was well loved and well liked, very hardworking, and was definitely going places, which just makes this even sadder. So on the 22nd of April 1993, which was a Thursday, Lawrence had spent the day at school. He visited some shops in Lewisham, and then he travelled to his uncle's house in Grove Park, where he was joined by Dwayne Brooks. They played video games and left at 10 p.m. They realised the bus they were on was travelling on would get them home too late, so they decided to change for different buses at Well Hall Road, which is really sad because this is where the incident happened, and if they'd stayed on the long bus, this would never have happened. It's awful. They arrived at the bus stop at Well Hall Road at 10:25 p.m. Lawrence walked along to the junction of Dixon Road to see if he could see a bus come in, and then went back to the bus stop. And Brooks was still on Well Hall Road, partway between the Dixon Road and the roundabout at Rochester Way, when this happened, so that's set in the scene. So they're not quite next to each other, I think is the point of that. At this point, Brooks saw a group of 5 or 6 white youths crossing over Rochester Way on the opposite side of the street near the area of the zebra crossing and moving towards them. Or just after 10:38 p.m, he called out to ask whether Lawrence saw the bus coming. So obviously he was nervous claimed that he heard one of Lawrence's assailants saying what N-word as they all quickly crossed the road and engulfed Lawrence. So, swarmed basically, no escape. The attackers forced Lawrence down to the ground and then stabbed him on both sides of his body. Brooks began running and shouted for Lawrence to run to escape with him, while the attackers disappeared down Dixon Road. Brooks and Lawrence ran in the direction of Shooters Hill. Oh God. Lawrence, after running 120 metres, collapsed and died soon after. Richard Shepherd, who was his pathologist later, stated, "It is a testimony to Stephen's physical fitness that he was able to run the distance he did before collapsing." So, he really did fight for his life. Brooks ran to call an ambulance while an off-duty police officer stopped his car and covered Lawrence with a blanket, which is ridiculous. I mean, I can see that he's trying to be nice, but it's tampering with evidence. What if that had, what sort of like wiped away some of the assailant's DNA, and he's a police officer, so he should have known that. I could forgive him if he was a random person, but I did hear when I've listened to things about this case before that passers-by or witnesses stopped and held Lawrence's hand and told him that he was loved whilst he was passing away, which is bittersweet because it's nice that that's the last things he heard, but it's just so sad. I actually had to stop the video I was watching because I was about to cry when I heard that bit. Awful, but I'm glad there was someone there at the end to comfort him. So the witnesses, all three witnesses at the bus stop at the time of the attack said in statements that the attack was sudden and short, although none was later able to identify the suspects, which is difficult. Eyewitness testimony is hard. In the days following Lawrence's murder, several residents came forward to provide names of suspects, and an anonymous note was left on a police car windscreen in a telephone box naming a local gang. I understand that people were very scared of this group, as you can imagine, and didn't want to make it obvious. And it named the local gang as the main 5 suspects. The suspects were Gary Dobson, brothers Neil and Jamie Acorn, Luke Knight and David Norris. In February of 1999, which is six years after the murder, nearly 6 years, officers investigating the handle of the initial inquiry revealed that a woman who might have been a vital witness had telephoned detectives 3 times within the first few days of the killing and appealed for her to contact them again. And obviously this is 6 years later. I mean, everything just went wrong in the handling of this case. It's disgusting, and it does make you wonder. Well, I mean, I don't wonder, I know that it was probably racial prejudice that meant he wasn't treated like a white person might have been. The 5 suspects were previously involved in racist knife attacks around the Eltham area, so not really hard to connect them then. 4 weeks before Lawrence's death, Dobson and Neil Acorn were involved in a racist attack on a black teenager called Kevin London, whom they verbally abused and attempted to stab. Neil's brother Jamie Giles, who was accused of stabbing teenagers Darren Witham in 92, so the year before, and Darren Giles in 94, the year after, causing Giles to have a heart attack. God, that's a teenager as well. Stabbings of the victims of the stabbings of victims Gurdeep Bangal and Stacey Benfield, which both occurred in 1993, so just before March 93, in Eltham, were also linked to Neil and Jamie Acorn, David Norris and Gary Dobson. So they've done this so many times, and they've all been linked, and they've never been arrested. If they'd been investigated properly, Stephen Lawrence might still be alive today. Just total disregard for non-white communities. Within 3 days of the crime, prime suspects had to be identified. No arrests has been made, however, until over 2 weeks after the murder. Detective Superintendent Brian Whedon would be ultimately leading the squad for 14 months, explained to an incredulous public inquiry arrest upon reasonable suspicion, a basic point of criminal law. I mean, why would you say that? Just apologise and admit you were wrong. On the 7th of May 93, the Aycock brothers and Dobson were arrested. Norris turned himself into the police and was likewise arrested 3 days later, and Knight was arrested on the 3rd of June. Neil Aycock picked out of an identity parade, and Luke Knight were charged with the murder on 13th of May and on 23rd of June retrospectively, but charges were dropped by July 93 because of insufficient evidence. Again, I'm going to keep sighing, sorry, I just read this and it really annoys me. They could have kept them in. It's ridiculous. An internal review was opened in August 93 by the Metropolitan Police. In April 94, the Crown's prosecution service stated that they did not have sufficient evidence for murder charges against anyone else, despite a belief that the Lawrence family that new evidence had been found. So the Lawrence family were absolutely key in bringing these people to justice. Doreen fought so hard for her son, and it's absolutely heartbreaking that she had to. The police should have done that for her. So they opened a private prosecution in April 94. So they did this against the initial 2 suspects and 3 others. The family were not entitled to legal aid, and Fighting Fund was established to pay for the analysis of forensic evidence and the cost of tracing and re-interviewing witnesses. The family were presented by counsel Michael Mansfield QC, Martin Soojoo, it's Soojoo, sorry if I butchered that, and Margot Boy, who worked pro bono. The charges against Jamie Aycock and David Norris were dropped before the trial for lack of evidence. On the 23rd of April 96, the 3 remaining suspects were acquitted of the murder by a jury at the Central Criminal Court after the trial judge, the Honourable Justice Curtis, ruled that the identification evidence given by Dwayne Brooks was unreliable. Why? Sorry, I'm getting too personal. The McPherson report endorsed the judgment, stating that Justice Curtis could have probably reached the only one conclusion, and that there was simply no satisfactory evidence available. Trying to stop myself sighing again. So, just what happened afterwards, I'll try and keep this as condensed as possible because there's quite a lot of information. So, after February 97, an inquest returned a verdict of an unlawful quick killing. The front page of the Daily Mail, this is really famous and in my opinion probably the only decent thing the Daily Mail's ever done. The front page of the Daily Mail labelled all 5 suspects murderers. So it's you can Google this, it's really famous, and it just says murderers in block capitals and has all 5 pictures of the suspects, so I don't think the public knew who they were before this point. Because it was really obvious they did it. And instructed them to sue if the assumption was wrong, which they can't because it wasn't. Lawrence's parents and numerous political figures praised the Daily Mail for taking the potential financial risk. So I'll give props to the Daily Mail for that one. That's the last decent thing they ever did. An inquest into the death of Lawrence was held in February 1997. The 5 suspects refused to answer any questions, claiming privilege against self-incrimination. The inquest concluded on 13th February 1997. The jury returned a verdict of 30 minutes deliberation of unlawful killing in, quote, a completely unprovoked racist attack by 5 white youths, unquote. This finding went beyond the bounds of their instructions. Excellent. On the 14th of February 1997, the Daily Mail newspaper labelled all 5 suspects. Oh, it's already said this, hasn't it? So this is more detail about that. So, murderers, the Mail accuses these men of killing. If we are wrong, let them sue us. Underneath this headline appeared pictures of the 5 suspects. None of the men ever sued for defamation, and strong public opinions rose against the accused and the Slade Court were convicted and jailed for racially aggravated harassment after another incident involved in a plainclothes black police officer. Like, it's bad enough that they've done this so many times before Stephen Lawrence, and then because they've not been prosecuted, they've just carried on. Because the case wasn't handled properly. There's so many times that these people could have been stopped and jailed and maybe educated in jail to not be racist, but no. In 2005, the law was changed. As part of the findings on the Lawrence case, the McPherson report had recommended that the rule against double jeopardy, the common law rule that once acquitted an accused person that could not be tried for a second time for the same crime, should be reappealed in the 5 murder cases, and that it should be possible to subject an acquitted murder suspect to a second trial if fresh and viable new evidence later came to light. So that went, basically, I'm just going to skip through this, but yeah, that went ahead. So a parallel report into the criminal justice system by Lord Justice Auld, the former senior presiding judge for England and Wales, had also commenced in 1999 and published the Auld report 6 months later. It opined that the Law Commission had been unduly cautious by limiting the scope to murder, and that the exception should be extend to other grave offences punishable with life or long terms of imprisonment. So basically, they're saying they can be tried again. So they were implemented in the Criminal Justice Act of 2003, and this provision came into force in 2005, and it opened murder and certain other serious crimes to a second prosecution regardless of when committed, with 2 conditions. Okay. Between the Lawrence murder and early 2010, Dobson was arrested and charged with a number of offences such as theft and burglary. Some of these charges were dropped, at least one resulted in a small fine. Oh god, he's really shown he's remorseful then, hasn't he? And none led to imprisonment. It keeps repeating, sorry, I'm just trying to... In 2006, a cold case review is commenced. In 2007, police confirmed they were investigating new scientific evidence. So, the new evidence was a microscopic stain of Lawrence's blood on Dobson's jacket. And fibres from Lawrence's clothing and hairs with a 99.9% chance of coming from Lawrence were found on the 2 men's clothes from the time or in an evidence bag holding them. The defence later argued unsuccessfully at trial that these were present due to contamination. Rubbish. So it was unsuccessful, and the defence didn't get away with that. The police unit manager involved in the matter commented that new evidence was only found because of scientific developments, and developments in forensics approaches that had taken place since 1996, which allowed for microscopic blood stains or hair fragments to be analysed for DNA and other microscopic evidence to be found used forensically. So basically, all you murderers out there who think that you're going to get away with things, you ain't, because think about how much technology is going to come along, things that we can't even comprehend. So they did a retrial in 2011 to 2012, and Gary Dobson and David Norris were arrested and charged in 2010. And this is interesting. So on 23rd of October 2010, the Director of Public Prosecutions, Keir Starmer, so he is now the head of the Labour Party, applied to the Court of Appeal for Dobson's original acquittal to be quashed. Dobson was in prison at the time for drug dealing. Lovely. Norris had not been previously acquitted, so no application was necessary in this case. For legal reasons, to protect the investigation and to ensure a fair hearing, reporting restrictions were put in place at the commencement of these proceedings, and the arrest's subsequent developments were not publicly reported at the time. So face trial for Lawrence's murder in light of new and subsequent substantial evidence. The ruling holds emphasise that this is a new trial of a defendant who, we repeat, is presumed in law to be innocent, and suggested a cautious and fact-based reporting style to avoid contempt of court and risk of prejudice at future trials. So they're actually handling it as fairly as possible because they don't want to it to mess up the future and for him to get off on a technicality, basically. This trial was presided over by Justice Treacy and began on the 15th of November 2011. The case centred on the new forensic evidence and whether it demonstrated the defendant's involvement in the murder, or was it a result of latent contamination due to police handling. On January 3rd, 2012, Dobson and Norris were found guilty of Lawrence's murder. The two were sentenced on the 4th of January to detention at Her Majesty's pleasure, equivalent to a life sentence for an adult with a minimum term of 15 years. Stopped in shock. 15 years and 2 months for Dobson and 14 years and 3 months for Norris. Time spent on remand by Dobson was not deducted for his minimum term to ensure his existing sentence for drug-related sentence was reserved. Well, that's something. The judge stated that the sentences reflected the fact that Dobson and Norris were juveniles at the time of the offence, which took place before the Criminal Justice Act in 2003. The starting point for which the minimum term was therefore 12 years. The judge acknowledged that this was lower than some might expect. A similar crime committed in 2011 as an adult would have justified a minimum sentence of 30 years. So it looks like they've tried to appeal the sentences many times, and being unsuccessful. So it says on 2012 it emerged that Norris and Dobson were seeking leave from the court appeal to appeal against their convictions. And August of the same year it was reported that Norris and Dobson had lost their first rounds of appeal. In 2013 it was announced that Gary Dobson had dropped his latest appeal against his murder conviction. So it looks like they won't be getting out anytime soon, hopefully. Basically, what we take away from this case is it was clearly mishandled by police. Whether these policemen were actively racist or not, if this had occurred to a white person, if a white person had been stabbed by either another white person or another ethnic minority, it would have been handled so much better. An arrest would have been made so much more quickly. You like to think that these days this kind of thing wouldn't happen, but of course it still does. And the only way to fight against this kind of racial prejudice is to educate yourselves and to challenge others who do not share the correct views about equality. So I hope that you enjoyed listening to this and feel like you have learned something. Please consider how you can support the cause. Google and research how you can support it. If you cannot support financially, there are other ways. And always challenge someone's views who, if they are wrong and they are racist. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope to make another video soon.